Hey guys, it's Eric, and today I have a different video. I'm gonna be talking about a conversation I had on Twitter, and I was just like, oh my god, this was so ridiculous. I should make a video about it and see if people can get the logic behind it, or maybe I'm completely crazy. So, someone made a controversial post with the one that like all the swords are pointed at him, and he says that you don't have to finish to have a great experience. And if they don't finish, it's also okay sometimes. So this comes into my feed, and I'm like, I don't agree with this. I partially agree. And I say, if you are bottoming, you don't need to finish. To have a satisfying experience, the top, however, has to finish. Otherwise, this was mediocre, unsatisfying. We need to find out what your definition of great is, but there's nothing great about anorgasmic sex. And I'm a little sassy at the end and says, I hope it helps. Sparkle. And I feel like probably that rubbed a lot of people wrong because, oh my God, the responses I got. So I want to start by saying first, what is greatness? Because I realized that in the minds of a lot, I was talking about this to a lot of people, and if we're rating something, let's say from 0 to 10, what considers greatness? What is considered to be great? From 9 to 10. Yeah, that's what it is. It's just very simple, but a lot of people just see positive responses and don't think that greatness is that very good and greatness are all interchangeable. They're not. So, for example, let's say that we have a rating from 0 to 10. 0 to 2, very bad. 0, awful. 2 to 4, that would be bad, right? 4 to 5, unacceptable. That's a no, okay? And then when we go from 5 to 6, mediocre, right? This is the middle, right in the middle. 5.5, that's mediocre, right? So 6 to 7, that would be considered acceptable or okay. That is like something like, okay, I'll take this, right? Good would be 7 to 8, 7.5, that's something good. 8 to 9, very good, right? So if someone gets a rating of 8 to 9, 8.5, that is very good. 9 to 10, let's say someone tells you that was a 9.5. That is great. This is the realm of greatness. And that is my understanding of this, right? 10 being excellence. A 10 out of 10 is just perfection, right? So I felt that this is my understanding. And I said, like, how can, you go through an experience where you have to stop and it's abruptly, you don't complete the human sexual response cycle, right? It has 4 parts. So the human sexual response cycle has excitement, plateau, orgasm, resolution. 4 parts. Without orgasm and resolution, your sexual relations only had half of it. Okay? Half of it. We only had half. So let's say excitement is like, when arousal happens, like you're with the person, you're like, getting into it, like, oh my God, yeah. The chemicals that start, juices are flowing, right? You get it. And then you start touching and everything, you hit plateau, which is when things are working. You're like, doing things and stuff is happening, right? Those are amazing things and those are amazing feelings. Orgasm is when you hit that climax, that highest degree of excitement, sorry. And the thing is that when you hit that is when you hit the biggest burst of neurochemicals. That's when you're release the highest amount of oxytocin and dopamine and a lot of other chemicals that make you feel really, really good, right? And then comes resolution, which is when those chemicals and like the other ones start slowing down and you feel, good, you feel like amazing, like, oh, this is great, right? And other things are happening, biochemically, in biology, we all know what this is, right? So my position when I saw this tweet was like, I don't think that if you are interrupting the human sexual response cycle, you are having a great experience. I cannot give a 9.5 to that because I feel like, why did we stop, right? So most of the time you would have sexual relations, and at some point, things are not working. Something is just not working, and you're like, okay, we need to stop. This is just not working. And maybe the bottom is sore. Maybe the top is tired or is having issues keeping his erection, which can happen when you have some type of dysfunction. I believe that if everything was going great, maybe great hygiene, great communication, kindness, great attraction, you can reach maybe good, very rarely very good, but I don't think you can reach great. I don't think that greatness rating is reserved for something that stops and is not completed. Because when you think about it, a great experience will be you go through the whole human sexual response cycle. You go through the climax, the orgasm, then the feelings, and you feel like, oh my god, this was amazing, this was great, and I think like an excellent experience would be if you both orgasm. So I'm focusing on gay sex here. So because the person that posted was a gay person, and I feel I'm a gay person too. So I feel like at least the top has to orgasm for it to be a great experience, in my opinion. So this ruffled a bunch of feathers. Like a lot of people were either misunderstanding what I was saying, misconstruing, or blatantly intellectually dishonest. But this is the thing that if you go on Twitter, people are gonna try to humble you or they're gonna try to do something to you because it's a little toxic. It's a toxic environment. Now, some people that I really love were just confused. So I'm gonna go through one of those responses, right? So someone that I really like, Jake O'Donnell, great photographer. I love his work. He was like, I completely disagree. Sometimes, the energy evolves into something different, and we're like having like a cuddly energy, and we're taking breaks, and we're just being intimate. And, this is great and pleasurable. And for him, in his expectations, he says that, being able to connect with someone is just, it's something that he would consider great, right? So again, back to the grading, 9 to 10, I don't think that's a great experience myself because you're interrupting the sexual response cycle. I feel like you need to either complete it to be great, because otherwise, why are you stopping? So he says that, like it evolves into like cuddling and like, that finishing is just the cherry on the top. So it's not an expectation. And I feel like for me in general, that is an expectation. So this is the type of things that when I'm saying like, hey, if I'm a top, I expect to come, right? I expect to finish. And if I am bottoming, I expect the top to finish. So I don't go to someone's house and be like, I'm telling, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and they tell me like, oh, I helped you finish, and you do this to me, and all that, and I go there, and then I don't finish, right? I don't think that was a great experience. Not for me, not for that person, because I feel like it has a lot to do with the expectations. So if your expectations were just to fool around and not to complete sex or have complete sexual relations, I kind of get it, but I can't agree with your rating or your understanding of what I'm saying. I'm speaking about a great, awesome experience. Great means remarkable, amazing, wonderful, right? So I try to explain to him like, hey, I feel like I gave him in a scenario. Like I feel like, for example, if I'm bottoming and yes, we're having a great time and it's 2 hours, but 3 hours happen and the top can't finish. At some point I'm gonna tell him like, hey, I know this is awkward, but we need to stop. We don't have to continue. Let's just stop. Let's just do another thing, or let's just cuddle and whatever. At this point, there were so many emotions in this particular thing. Like people are getting frustrated. And the thing is that when you stop, it's because it's not fun from someone. I have to tell them like, this is not fun for me. I'm like either sore, I'm like, I'm tired. This is just not giving me the same energy anymore. Like he's just trying to finish 3 hours in. I'm just like, this is not working. So what if everything was good? Yeah, I think that maybe we get to good, 7.5. I can't give that experience a 9.5. That was not great, because we had to stop. It was a little awkward. He might be frustrated. We both are stressed. Maybe I get a little insecure and be like, oh my God, he doesn't really like me, or he's not that super attracted to me or something. Those negative emotions do not make a great experience. So he clarifies and says that, okay, well, this is probably a different case. Like he loves pleasure in bottoms, and that sometimes the goal is not to finish. Like he goes to have like an encounter, and the goal is not to finish. So I feel like then what you're trying to do is fool around. You're not trying to have full sexual relations. And I kind of get it. But with me, I have expectations. And I feel like my expectations are very clear. And if I'm going to top, I expect to finish and to have a full experience. And if I'm going to bottom, I expect to have a full experience. That's what we said. And I feel like it was just a little misunderstanding on what was I communicating. Nothing malicious. So something happens when the original poster comments under me, and he's like, he says like, oh, I explained this before, that he explains that, okay, if someone doesn't finish, that doesn't make it a bad experience. It could be a kink, a medication, and then his hot temperature, and he's like, he gets like, oh, I get that your job requires you to finish or something. I'm like, that has nothing to do with my job. This has to do with you are saying that someone not completing the sexual response cycle consists of a great experience, and I just disagree with that. There's steps missing. There's steps missing. And also, something that Jake said is like about that coddling and all of that. Sometimes things are not working, and you go and you say, oh, things are not working today. Like, we're tired or whatever. Let's just cuddle, right? That cuddle, it's amazing and wonderful. But you know what's better than that? Coddling a resolution. Because once you orgasm, you release the highest amount of oxytocin. And if you do cuddle after you went through that climax, you're like, oh my God, yeah, this was amazing. Oh my God, yeah, amazing. And you guys are cuddling with all that oxytocin. You're just like, it's just a lot better. It's just a lot better because you feel more connected. You feel different. You have a different set of emotions that are affected by your hormones, right? So that being said, I would call that a great experience. Coddling after the fact, that sounds pretty awesome. So anyways, I answered to him that I'm trying to be very logical in this particular post, which is, this is not about my job. This is about sex in general. And I feel like not being able to finish is a form of failure. This triggered a lot of people because apparently the word failure has so much negative connotation in people's minds. People only think failure is an insult. So I say this is a form of failure. It impacts sexual experience. It adds stress, insecurity, and frustration to the sexual mix. It adds negative feelings to the top and the bottom, and that sex can be okay, but never great. Orgasm is one of the most important parts of sex. So that is what I'm explaining here, that it could be a positive, rating. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, it could be good, it could be okay, it could be, he said it himself. At this point, I'm just repeating what he said, because what did he say? He said, if they don't finish, it's also okay sometimes. That's not good. That's not very good. It's okay, right? So I'm repeating what he said, but people got really triggered by the word failure. What I was explaining here is that if you have the desire and the intention and the goal to finish, to come in your sexual intercourse, and you don't do it, you fail to do it. That doesn't mean that you're a failure, but that we're describing the situation, you failed. And some people were like very obtuse at this point. They were like, oh, putting in quotations, not being able to come is a form of failure. They were like being kind of funny and all that. And I was just like, I don't even know there's not a lot of synonyms of failure, by the way. I looked them up. So I go and say, Failing to finish when you have the intention to finish because you can't, it's a form of failure. I'm doubling down here. So, because the difficulty or inability to ejaculate is a condition often needing treatment. That's just erectile dysfunction. It's a dysfunction. This is the proper use of language, and then I'm being a little sassy for this one. I say, let me know if you need a drawing or a diagram, right? Because I don't think I said anything crazy. A lack of success, which is the most common understanding of this word, where an effort or endeavor does not achieve its desired result. And that was what I was referring to. If you are intending to finish and you don't finish, then you didn't get your desired result. The same way, like, let's say that I gave someone an example. If I want to make a lasagna, right? And my kitchen is working to the degree that I can cook the meat, I can cook the pasta, I can cook the sauce, but my oven is not working. So I can't bake the lasagna. I can't bake the lasagna. And I wanted a baked lasagna with the baked cheese and everything. Is that lasagna? Maybe, sort of. You know, can you eat it? Yeah, you could. Is that a great lasagna? No, it isn't. It isn't. And you failed at making a lasagna because there's stuff that's missing and you know, your oven is not working. That doesn't mean that you are a failure. It just means your oven is not working. You should probably work it out and fix it, maybe. I don't know. But people were believing that because you can't finish, I'm calling you a failure. This is an insult. This is like a very different thing. It's very different to call someone a failure than to say, well, this person failed at this, right? And I feel like at this point, people are just being intellectually dishonest because they just want to project that I'm a mean guy, that I'm just being super mean, and that I'm just attacking people that have erectile dysfunction. This is not the case. I respect everybody, and I just believe that, you know, whether people are seeking treatment or not, I just don't think that if I am a top and someone says, hey, I want you to top me, someone's gonna bottom for me, and I'm just gonna go there and they're like, I want you to finish. I want you to finish, I want you to do this, I want you to do that. And I go there, right? And, you know, I don't perform and I'm tired or I'm sore or I'm doing whatever. I'm like tired, I'm sick, whatever, and I can't come and I can't finish. And that is a great experience. But what he says in his post is the thing. He says, I'm trying to figure out why you have this mindset though. Besides the work you do, not being able to finish in a moment of intimacy, it's okay and shouldn't be shamed upon. I'm telling you, I'm not shaming anyone. I just don't believe that if someone has an expectation of me to finish, that I need a gold medal. Like, oh, someone wanted me to finish and then I don't do it. That is a great experience. 10 out of 10. That isn't. That's a lie. That is coddling and a lie. If I go there and that bottom says, you wasted my time because you couldn't get hard, you couldn't finish, and yeah, that's what I believe that he's gonna be thinking about me. I'm not gonna think that, oh, I need a gold medal because I did my best. No, that's not the way life works. I feel like a lot of people were thinking that I was coming for them, but I wasn't. I'm just explaining that if I have this performance issue, I can't consider that a 10 out of 10 experience. Like, it just make it make sense, right? So that's not a 10 out of 10. So that was my point. But people were being obtuse. People were being like malicious, and like this is where intellectual dishonesty comes and like manipulation, all that. So someone says, this guy CBK say, weird sword to die on. Lots to unpack on your end, dude. And I'm just like, I didn't know this was the apocalypse. So me telling you that this is not a great experience, it's now all of a sudden me, I'm shaming people that can finish or that can do anything. So that are having like erectile dysfunction or something. This is not the case. I just can't coddle people and say we're all winners for trying. I don't think so. You know, and I feel like some experiences are very good, some experiences are good, but I would consider finishing the sexual response cycle a great experience. And I feel like an excellent experience is like if the bottom and the top can come, 10 out of 10. I would believe that. Yeah, that's a 10 out of 10 excellent experience. So that was my point. But what I want to tell you about this conversation and this whole discourse is I learned that either people have an idea of what positive responses or positive ratings are, because someone said to me, well, great and very good, I thought it were the same thing. Great and positive were the same thing, you know? And I was like, no, I feel like we all had a different understanding of greatness, which is what I said in the beginning. I was like, okay, maybe we have a different understanding of what makes something great. So long story short, there were people that were being like saying all kinds of stuff. Like, for example, someone, I really love like some of like the messages that I received, because they were kind of funny. Like, oh, you're missing the point. Like, you're missing the point. I'm like, no, I'm not missing the point. And like, oh, your example is an exaggeration. It isn't. For any reason that I'm in the middle of the sexual response and we have to stop, this is not a great experience. Whether the bottom is sore or I'm sore, or you know, we feel sick, we feel tired, we didn't complete the sexual response cycle, we didn't get to resolution, we didn't get to orgasm. I just feel like, how is that an amazing, remarkable experience? Am I being irrational? Right. So this is the thing. So someone was saying, like, one of the people that I found in the comments that really, you know, says like, I don't know if you understand how ratios work, but more people agree with the person you're arguing with. Do I need to spell it out for you? I'm going to show you something. If I go into a room of flat earthers and everybody tells me the earth is flat, I'm not going to leave saying the earth is flat. I don't care if 30 people tell me, well, the earth is flat. No, I'm going to defend my position. I'm going to use logic, reason, and certain evidence or arguments. And then we need to focus on that point, you know, and you need to convince me that what I'm saying is incorrect or that I'm illogical. So that being said, don't go to Twitter to have discussions, because people are going to just drag you through filth, and then you're going to be like, I don't know, you can't use logic to argue here. So that being said, I hope that you enjoyed this little exchange, and I want to know what you think. Do you think that my rating is too strict? Do you think that I am being unreasonable, illogical, or am I dumb? Tell me, I want to know. I want to know. So that being said, I love you so much. This was such an experience. I thought it was so ridiculous to engage in this Twitter controversial thingy, but it gave me the opportunity to make a YouTube video. So I feel so happy that I made this video to talk to you about some nonsense. So goodbye. I'll see you in the next one.